Let's take a look at section 1.6 where we study other types of equations. The objectives in this section are to solve polynomial equations by factoring, solve radical equations, solve equations with rational exponents, solve equations that are quadratic in form, solve equations involving absolute value, and to solve problems modeled by equations. A polynomial equation is the result of setting two polynomials equal to each other. The equation is in general form if one side is 0 and the polynomial on the other side is in descending powers of the variable. The degree of a polynomial equation is the same as the highest degree of any term in the equation. Now let's take a look at radical equations. A radical equation is an equation in which the variable occurs in a square root, cube root, or any higher root. We saw radical equations with nth roots by raising both sides of the equation to the nth power. If necessary, when solving a radical equation, arrange terms so that one radical is isolated on one side of the equation. Raise both sides of the equation to the nth power to eliminate the isolated nth root. Solve the resulting equation. If this equation still contains radicals, repeat steps 1 and 2.
Jones bringing
Check all proposed solutions in the original equation. If n is even, the check is required.
The objectives for this section are to solve quadratic
Sometimes equations have rational exponents.
By using
Let's briefly discuss
property,
these.
by completing
We know
the
that
square,
rational exponents represent
by
radicals.
quadratic formula.
So actually, this is a radical equation.
We also want you to
in
learn
disguise.
to use the discriminant to determine the number and type
Remember
of
that
solutions
x
that
to the
quadratic
m over
equation
nth
will
power
possess,
is the
as well
same
as
as the
determining
nth
most
root of
efficient method
x
to use
raised
when
to the
solving a
nth.
quadratic equation.
A radical equation
We'll
with
also
rational
take a look
exponents
at solving
can be
problems
solved by
that are
isolating the
modeled
expression with
by
the rational
quadratic
exponent
equations.
and raising both sides of the equation
Let's
to a
start by
power that is the
defining a
reciprocal
quadratic
of the
equation.
rational exponent.
A quadratic equation in X is
An
equation
that
can be written
is
in the general form
quadratic in
AX
form
plus BX
is
plus
another
C
type of equation we
equals
want to
0.
consider. And this
A,
is
B,
an
and C are real
equation that can be
numbers
expressed as a quadratic
with A
equation
not
using an
equal to
appropriate
0.
substitution.
So a quadratic equation in
We
X
also
is also called a
look in
second-degree
this section at
polynomial
equations
equation
involving
in
absolute
X.
value. The absolute
One
value
of
of
the
x
things
describes the
that,
distance of x
can
from
be
0
used
on
to
a
solve
number
these
line.
equations
To solve an
when
absolute value
factoring
equation,
is the
we
method
rewrite
used
the
to solve
absolute value
is the zero
equation
product principle.
in an equivalent
And this
form
principle states
without absolute
that if
value
the
bars.
product of two algebraic expressions
So here's an
is
example
0,
of
then
an
at least one
absolute
of the
value
factors
equation.
is equal to
Absolute
0.
value of u is equal to
So,
c.
Looking at it
If c is
symbolically,
a positive real
it basically
number
says
and
if
u
A
represents
times
an
B is
algebraic
0,
expression,
then A
then
is 0,
the absolute
is
value
0.
of u equals c is equivalent to u equal to c or u equal
So when you
to
solve a
negative
quadratic
c.
equation by
So
factoring,
notice the
if
format of
necessary,
this. C
rewrite
is
the
positive,
equation in the general form ax
positive real
squared
number.
plus bx plus c
U
equals 0.
is an absolute value,
Factor completely,
and on the opposite side of the
apply
equation
the zero product
from your
principle,
positive real
which
number
means
c,
that you'll set
you
each
have
factor
nothing but
containing a
an
variable
absolute value
equal to 0.
of an expression.
Solve the
Nothing
equation
else. There's nothing being
that
multiplied
result
by
in
the
step
absolute value,
3,
nothing being added or subtracted
and you
or
can always
divided
check the
into the absolute
solutions
value.
in the original
So you want to make
equation.
sure that your equation is in this form before
Another
you
method for
rewrite
solving
it
quadratic equations
as u equal
is
to c
the square
or
root
u
property.
equal to negative c. It must meet all the conditions
this
stated here.
property involves
That
equations
is a brief
that have the
overview of
form
section
u
1.6.
squared
You'll see
equals
worked
to
out
d,
exercises
where u
on
is an
videos
algebraic
that follow this
expression
one.
and d is some non-zero